Welcome to Bible Health Secrets. I'm your host, Jonathan Otto, and today we're going to be looking at essential oils in the Bible, Old Testament, and even the New Testament. Look at modern uses of essential oils and also look at secret healing plants, plants that have power to remedy disease, and the fact that these plants are discovered and identified in the Bible. We'll also look at case studies of people that have overcome disease and how they did it, how faith and the Bible's principles were instrumental in their journey. So let's check it out. Also, I just want to say a huge thank you to those of you that decided to support our mission by owning the Bible Health Secrets package. That allows us to continue going and keep getting this mission and this message out into the world. And it also allows you to have a resource that's in your home library that you can share with your friends and family. And it comes with a complete guidebook and transcripts and the extended full-length interviews. So it's a really excellent package and it could make an incredible difference in your life. You can check it out below. Also, I've got a really important announcement to make right now. We are having a bonus question and answer session where you're going to get to ask your most important questions to your favorite experts in this series. So I'm going to be revealing who they are over the next couple of days, but the important thing is that you get your questions in tonight. That's right, tonight, at the latest, very first thing in the morning. Now, two ways you can do that is you can leave it as a comment in the comment section. Just go ahead, leave your question, go for it. The second way to do it is to hit reply in the email that you got. Any of the emails you've got from us, just hit reply. We'll get an email back from you. Go ahead, tell us what your question is. And you can remain anonymous if you like, and you can let us know if that's what you'd like. But if you're happy to be known, we'll just call you out by your first name, and if you could let us know the country or the state you're from so we can say hello to you in that part of the world, that would be really great. So again, get your questions in, please, tonight or first thing in the morning so I can make sure that we do our very best to cover all of the questions in some way, shape, or form. And we can deal specifically with individual needs across the board, answering your important questions. Thank you very much. Let's have a look at essential oils. Essential oils have been an integral part of people's daily lives for thousands of years. They've been used to support the body, mind, and spirit long before the birth of synthetic medicines and pharmaceutical drugs. In the Bible's book of Genesis, Adam and Eve are placed in a magnificent garden filled with the scents of flowers, trees, and other plants. God created everything we need to support ourselves on an emotional, mental, and physical, and even spiritual level, including wonderful healing plants and essential oils. In this episode, we're going to look at the uses for essential oils and healing plants in the Bible, as well as how we can use them in our modern world.
So what do you think happened before drugs came about? People were using natural solutions, primarily when it comes to infection, essential oil-based stuff. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's incredible. So I can't tell you how many times, like so many different times where I have one of them, like they're green in the face, they look like they're gonna hurl. Follow me. We go into my bathroom and right away I just pray, you know what I mean? So I just lay hands on them and I say, God, you're the one that developed these oils. You're the one that even developed the knowledge of this stuff. Use these oils to bring healing into these bodies. And so my grandkids are not putting hope in oils. They are putting hope in the God who invented the oils, that put the actual plants on the earth and put it in inspired man to draw the oils from it to put in a nice little bottle so we can buy it. So it works really well. I'm pretty amazed.
Plants are very complex systems, and they must develop their own natural medicines in order to survive. So essential oils are nothing more, well, essential oils are simply the concentration of these powerful medicines that plants create for themselves. And it turns out they have beneficial properties for humans and animals and other systems as well. So in a general sense, essential oils, I mean, there's nothing magical about them. They're not magic. They are, in fact, nature's technology. And they have an incredible array of medicinal uses everywhere around us, in health, in preventing superbugs, you know, in disinfecting surfaces, in boosting cognitive function, you know, boosting heart health, and so on.
Let's look at some of the earliest uses for essential oils. We know many of them today for their healing powers, but their germ-killing powers meant that they were often used as disinfectants or cleaners in the Bible.
So when you look at the anointing oil of the Bible, what that was basically a disinfectant cleaner that God told the priest to use, because just imagine all the bacteria and the viruses and the fungus that would develop from slaughtering animals on a temple and the altar. So if you think of it, everything God did had a purpose. And there's a reason why he said, use these different natural solutions, natural remedies, put them in a big vat of olive oil, and this is what you're going to use to not only anoint yourself, but to anoint other things. So God had just safety in mind. He had spiritual enlightenment in mind, because we know that a lot of these essential oils, as well as other things, help people get into a greater frame of thought. And we see a lot of the New Age community burning incense, using essential oils to reach what they call enlightenment. But you know, God designed this from the very beginning. There's a reason why God said, I'm not going to anoint my house with the anointing oil today. We don't live that way anymore. But there's a reason why he created the anointing oil the way he did. There's myrrh and calamus and cinnamon, and there were essential oil-based products that was a disinfectant. So how do we clean our counters? Well, God gave them a solution. If you look at essential oils, and the common, well, this is the prototypical one, is thieves oil. Thieves oil is developed by a very large essential oil company, and it has cinnamon, it has rosemary, it has eucalyptus, it has lemon, and these are oils that have been shown, according to tradition, that they use to help plagues. That is unbelievable what we're looking at. These oils today have been shown to combat the flu virus. These oils today have been shown to bring a lot of healing and disease. So when we look at plagues, when we look at how to stop infection, natural solutions work. And again, we go back to essential oil-based products that God incorporated into the Levitical priesthood as their ritual. Well, little did they know that they were keeping house clean. So yeah, I can't prove it, but we got to remember, before antibiotics came out, they were using thyme and oregano and lavender and other oils as combat medicine to help prevent gangrene, to sterilize equipment.
It's amazing to know the providential planning that went on into God's creation, specifically his development and implementation of these plants and oils. Knowing God has provided for us in this way allows us to more fully know and understand that he is our sustainer. He's the one that takes care of us in every situation. He has provided different plants and oils for different purposes. Everyone has their favorite essential oil. Let's have a look at some of the most popular oils and their uses.
I'd have to say my absolute most favorite essential oil is lavender. Mosquitoes love me, and so do spiders. And they're tormenting. And red ants, those fire ants here in Texas, so they're so much fun. Yeah, no, man, I'm a cook, right? So my hands get burned. And there's nothing that relieves that faster or better than lavender oil, which is an essential oil. Mosquito bites, spider bites. I mean, I get huge welts that blow up really big, or if I get ant, you know, an ant does whatever they do. Apparently they urinate on you. I'm allergic to it. So, I mean, you know, I've had my foot swollen for 3 weeks because of fire ants before. And so essential oils have been the only thing to be able to help, the absolute only thing that has been able to help my insane allergic reaction to any kind of insects. So I stand by this. And stomach aches, like my grandkids, anyone that walks in the house, okay, I've got a nice little medicine cabinet filled with all kinds of oils. And so anytime like, no, my stomach hurts, like right away, do you have any oils for this? Mom, my back hurts, do you have any oils for this? And it's amazing, headaches, right? You know, muscle tension. My grandkids, you know, got a bad belly because he ate too much pasta or whatever, or cake or whatever. So it's like instantaneous. It's really surprising that.
Which oil?
Diges is the one for the stomach for sure. Yeah, it's incredible. So I'm pretty amazed. One of my daughters who had morning sickness, gone. Peppermint oil she used for that. Yeah, there's all kinds of things that we use essential oils for. Yeah, I believe in them. That's for awesome. Sure, yeah.
There are multiple uses for essential oils, such as all-purpose cleaners, pest repellent, cleansing or detoxifying the air, freshening your laundry, homemade sunscreens, eliminating mold, reducing anxiety, increasing mental capacity and spiritual awareness, improving sleep, massage therapy, and more. It's incredible to see the capacities of what seem to just be simple plants, to see the vast benefits that God has given to us through these oils.
Well, I like to talk about oregano oil. It's one of my favorites because I grow a lot of oregano. And I actually have an essential oil extraction system set up. I used to have it in the lab, but I moved it home. Oregano oil is a powerful healer. I always travel with oregano oil in case I get food poisoning, because it cures food poisoning almost instantly. It is the antibacterial oral medicine that you can take that just halts any kind of bad food. Like if you got a bad batch of seafood, or you're eating a pizza somewhere, let's say, where the tomato sauce went bad, they left it out overnight. You know, you could be in real trouble, right? Because of the bacteria. Oregano oil nails it very, very quickly. Oregano oil is also good topically, because spider bites, insect bites, things like that. The oregano oil actually breaks down some of the protein venom that you know, causes the reaction. So it's a multiple use essential oil. I wouldn't travel without it. It should be part of everybody's first aid kit, frankly.
Excellent. Any other oils that come to mind? Frankincense?
Yeah, well,
like that?
I like holy basil. Holy basil, something you can also grow, and it has so many cardiovascular benefits internally. But like many of these plants, it can be known for one thing, but it can have a multitude of other uses as well, because the molecules that it contains are very complex. It can have, you know, 1,000 different medicines in it. So holy basil is one of these that's known for one thing, but it also has other uses, such as cardiovascular or cognitive use. Or, you know, it probably is helping to purify the blood and cleanse the blood as well. It's probably a detox herb in a sense, like a mild detox, but people don't really take it for that. Look, the truth is that if you go out into nature and you just eat wild foods, your body is extracting essential oils from all the wild foods, right? Because they all have, quote, essential oils. The word oil is kind of a misnomer. It doesn't have to be an oil. It should be just called essential molecules. It can be in a non-oil form. You know, it could be a water-soluble molecule, for example. Essential molecules from plants. Our food supply is missing these essential molecules. If you eat iceberg lettuce, it tastes like nothing, because there's nothing in it, really. There's nothing potent. Where are the essential molecules? They're missing. The food supply has been watered down and dumbed down, if you will, to eliminate all of the bitter tastes and the strong tastes and the pungent tastes, because that's not what people want day to day. But that's where the medicine is. That's why essential oils, the ones that you can take orally, they have a very strong taste. People don't want that in their food, but we should have some of that in our food. That's why, you know, arugula, if you want to have a salad and you get some really potent, pungent arugula, that's medicine. You're eating essential oil in your salad. You really are. Salads are sort of a pre-extraction essential oil buffet. If you get a lot of wild foods in it and you get, you know, a variety of different types of lettuce and herbs in it. You know, like sage, for example, or rosemary. Rosemary, you know, rosemary is, if you do the extract and take the rosemary oil, not only is it scientifically proven to enhance cognitive function, but it can also, if you extract rosemary oil from the rosemary herb, you have powerful medicine that's not only been scientifically proven to enhance cognitive function, but you can also use it to preserve meat. You can use it as a preservative. And, you know, instead of the toxic preservatives that are used out there, like sodium nitrite or other toxic chemicals, sodium benzoate, you just use, you know, rosemary herb. Multitude of uses. Peppermint for digestion, you know, it's a lifesaver. Right?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
All the mints are antibacterial too.
There's a particular condition called MARCONS, M-A-R-C-O-N-S, and it's an acronym. It stands for multiple antibiotic resistant coagulase negative staphylococcus. It's a type of infection, a sinus infection. And what happens is this bacteria can get into the sinuses and it can colonize, and it produces chemical toxins, endotoxins, that can affect neurotransmission, can affect the brain. And it affects chemicals in the brain that alter appetite, that can affect sleep, that can affect digestion, that can trigger headaches, that can cause chronic inflammation. And it's a very hard thing to treat by the nature of its name, multiple antibiotic resistant. So, you know, you think about an infection like a bacterial infection, typically the treatment in medicine is an antibiotic. But if we have an antibiotic resistant microorganism, how then do you eradicate it? How then do you make it weaker? Do you break it down? And so, for example, essential oil of oregano, essential oil of thyme, are very effective. Frankincense can be very effective. So these are some things that can be used. Citrus oils, grapefruit, orange, tangerine can be very, very effective oils to stimulate immune function and help the body's immune system to do that battle, to win that war when antibiotics aren't an option or antibiotics have already failed.
According to Dr. Eric Z, he says essential oils are a component of a botanical matter, evident with a simple walk through a fragrant garden. The aromatic properties escape a rose with the brush of a hand. So there's little question why or how these ancients would have noticed this and utilized it in some form. Oils themselves are discussed in ancient literature dating back thousands of years, with Rome known for its baths, territories of Greece for their perfumes, and anointing oils mentioned in the Bible. Largely, these were extracts, with many writings indicating the use of olive oil and pressing the oil out. There are indications of crude distillation methods though, with discoveries of clay-made distillery equipment not unlike our own. While these early distilled oils would have been closer to our modern hydrosols, meaning steam distillation, the idea of extracting, distilling, or otherwise capturing and using the fragrant component of a plant is evolved.
I have a really defined sense of smell. It's by far my strongest sense, and so I love essential oils because I love the smells. So I use essential oils. I take a lot of baths. I use them in my baths. I actually had a young person I know give me a bracelet with beads that you put essential oils on. They're real porous, and so they absorb the oil, so you can smell them all day long. I think it's a real de-stressor. When I'm not feeling well, I've always had peppermint oil beside my bed, because when I'm not feeling well, I'll take a peppermint oil and put it on a cloth and put it on my chest, and that helps me not throw up. So no, I love, and even when I had my children, I had someone using essential oils with me in the delivery room, because it just helps me. Smell is really important to me, and it helps kind of bring me into a calmer space.
Cool. Do you use essential oils during your protocols with Dr. Philip?
I haven't been prescribed anything, but I already use, I have calming things that I use. I've always put lavender, in my bath water. I have a diffuser that I put essential oils in. And so I was already doing that, and so I've just kept doing that.
Believe it or not, there are scientific reasons for the effectiveness of plants and essential oils based on their potency.
The amazing thing to me about essential oils is that they're all medicines that are created by plants using the readily available elements in the air and water around them. So a plant is inhaling carbon dioxide, right? CO2. And it's also bringing in water, H2O, from its roots. Now, by using CO2 and H2O, it will break the molecular bonds, and it will rearrange and compile these carbons and hydrogens and oxygens into new forms, new complex molecules with larger molecular mass to create the medicines that are in essential oils. And when you're harvesting essential oils from a plant, what you're doing is you're collecting and concentrating those molecules, those special molecules that these plants have synthesized from common elements that are in the air and water all around us. So if you think about it, an essential oil is the product of a plant-based pharmaceutical factory, if you will, but in a natural sense, that's synthesizing medicine with a purpose. Why do plants create these medicines? Because they serve a purpose to protect the plant, protect it from ionization, from sunlight radiation, or to protect the plant from fungal infections, or to protect the plant from bacterial infections, or to boost the plant's longevity, or immune response, or growth factors, or photosynthesis efficiency, and so on.
So in essence, God created this perfect system which not only protects the plant but gives the added benefit of healing and boosting the functionality of the human body. Everything that God created works within these perfect systems that all collaborate together and form a beautiful synthesis.
Well, ultimately, if we look at it from a very scientific point of view, essential oils are chemicals, just like drugs are chemicals, just like food is chemical. There are certain chemicals within foods and within oils from plants that have medicinal purposes and medicinal benefits. And you know, this isn't new. This has been around for thousands of years. There's just a new rediscovering, right? The last revolution in medicine occurred with the discovery of the antibiotic, right? And that the antibiotic discovery ushered in a realm of drugs, artificial pharmaceuticals to manipulate internal chemistry to have some type of symptom suppression effect, right? And that's where we've been for the last 60, 70 years. But there's this new revolution coming, and it's not really a revolution, it's a rediscovery. It's a rediscovery of how food and how chemicals from things like essential oils can actually have medicinal benefits as well that are equally as powerful, and in many cases more powerful than the standard of care that we've been practicing for the last 70 years. There's been wondrous benefits and discoveries in pharmacy in the realm of pharmaceuticals, but I think we rely on them too heavily, and I think we put our faith and we put the hands of our health into something that is very passive. You know, and even we do that with natural things, right? A person, for example, with chronic sinus issues can use a peppermint oil, right? But if they don't figure out why they're chronically getting congested in the first place, then the oil is just being used the same as the drug might be being used, right? So ultimately we want to find out what the underlying cause is. We can use natural things to help symptomatically, but we shouldn't be using them indefinitely to help with a symptom. We should be looking for the deeper reason or the deeper meaning behind why we're having and struggling with that particular problem.
I think you'll like this from Revelation chapter 18, verse 23. It's talking about the destruction of this kind of wicked, perhaps end time power. And it says, "And the light of a candle shall no more shine at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall no more be heard at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men, perhaps wealthy men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all the nations deceived." Just click on the word sorceries and it will give the Greek definition of that word.
Yeah, medication. Interesting.
And read the Greek word. Try to
magic, literally or figuratively, sorcery, witchcraft,
and see the
medication, pharmacy.
Yeah,
is the other word there.
And see the word, the Greek word up the top. Can you read that? Try to pronounce it.
Pharmakia.
What's that sound like?
Yeah, pharmaceutical. Yeah.
For by thy pharmaceutical medications, the nations were deceived, and they're saying for the great men of the earth, the wealthy men, using these things to medicate the world, dumb down the mind, break a spiritual connection. So, we're finally at a point in time where we're almost forced to refocus our attention on the idea of natural healing methods. We've tried the synthetic solutions of modern medicine, and while at times they've been beneficial, too often they've created more problems than they've solved. This has led us to be dependent on multiple synthetic drugs in order to combat the side effects of another. For example, in order to deal with the side effects of drug 1, then we have to take drug 2. And to deal with the side effects of drug 2, then we have to take drug 3, and so on. The amazing thing about essential oils being used medicinally is that they have far more benefits than they do side effects. I think we could call these side benefits. Do they have side effects?
Sometimes, yeah. But
often like, side benefits, right?
Right, but everything does, right? Give a perfect example. If you eat a healthy meal, is there a side effect? Yeah, because for your gut to break that food down, your gut has to go to war with that food, right? And the side effect is going to be all the blood from your brain is going to rush to your gut to help you digest that. So you're going to be a little more sleepy, a little more groggy, a little more fatigued, because your blood goes to your gut so that your gut can do the work of digestion. That's a side effect, right? It's a side effect of eating a healthy meal. Everything's got a side effect. Whether it's good or bad or long-lasting or short-lasting, you know, all that is variable and dependable, or independent of what we're talking about. But yeah, there can be side effects of essential oils, but in my experience, generally not a lot. I mean, for example, a side effect of an essential oil might be if somebody's allergic. You know, I have patients, I do a lot of allergy testing on patients, but sometimes I get a patient who's allergic to citrus or allergic to like grapefruit, and they're using like a grapefruit oil extract, right? And they're reacting to it. They put it on their skin as something they're trying to use medicinally, and they react to it, or they put it in a diffuser and they react to it because they're allergic to it. So that's kind of a unique one-on-one individual type of side effect that can happen. It's not that they're dangerous to use, but you know, again, everybody is unique. Everybody is independently biochemically unique in their own right. So You know, that's why, you know, in research studies, doctors do, you know, large-scale studies where you study 10,000 people, and usually there's some kind of an intervention. We're going to take 10,000 people with this disease and give them this substance, and then we're going to monitor and measure outcomes of what happens. And generally in these kinds of studies, you don't get 100% of the people reacted positively or 100% of the people reacted negatively. You get a mixed bag, right? And it's because people are different. Biochemical individuality.
So side effects can be negative or positive. One of the great positive side effects or benefits of essential oils is their ability to affect us on an emotional and spiritual level. Because of this, they can target specific mindsets and moods that help us to alter our perspective in a positive way.
Well, again, when we look at one of the underlying ubiquitous causes of autoimmune conditions is inflammation. I know of no other natural solution that could target inflammation, not only at the cellular level, but at the emotional and spiritual level. You know, essential oils have a direct ability to primarily affect the limbic system, which is our primal brain, right? Your mood, your emotions, your remembrance. Studies have shown that diffusing, just simple diffusing citrus oils like lime, lemon, bergamot, and others like orange have created positive work-life balance for nurses specifically who have arguably one of the most stressful, underappreciated jobs on the planet. And they have found just by diffusing essential oils on the nurse station that they reported being happier at work, less stress, less anxiety, and overall their life became better. What else can do that? I mean, it's a couple cents. You put a couple drops on, and that right there can stop the toxic thoughts. That could stop the inflammatory response that we have shown and we know is a direct correlation to the sympathetic reaction, this fight or flight, overstressed reaction that people get. Why? Because we're chronically stressed as a people. We're chronically stressed. We wake up in the morning, we're worried about our job. We get in the car, we're stuck in traffic, and that causes stress. We go to work, many people hate their job. Stress, stress, stress. You go home, and chances are you're having marital problems because divorce rates are through the roof. And time after time after time after time, things happen, and we're just chronically stressed. This puts our body in a position that when you see that bear, for example, you're designed by God to see that bear and have what's known as that fight or flight response that shunts energy and blood to the right places that you could quickly move and you could quickly get out of Dodge real fast, where that's not the place that you want to be all the time, because that will cause oxidative stress, which has been linked to heart disease, which has been linked to autoimmune conditions, and it will drain you. So what we need to do is we need to calm and we need to get ourselves into what's the opposite, is known as the parasympathetic response, which is the rest and digest. How many people eat and they're stressed while they're eating, or they're eating in their car getting fast food because they're only got 15, 20, 30 minutes between driving from work? That's not where we want to eat our food. That's not how we want to digest. So using essential oils to calm stress, to improve mood, to balance your life, and also essential oils have a direct effect on inflammation, actually proven to decrease salivary cortisol levels, which are a direct marker of stress throughout the body, which is the hormone that the adrenals produce when we're stressed. So a lot of people that have adrenal fatigue or just burnt out adrenals because they're producing so much cortisol because they're chronically stressed, they find that simply applying a topical application of essential oils like bergamot, like lavender, and many others like ylang ylang, which is a fantastic oil for harmonizing the body and creating peace. Just simply applying those oils diluted with a carrier oil over your adrenals has been shown, and a lot of folks that I've worked with said, it saved my life. It helped me. People with autoimmune conditions, their hair is falling out, they're chronically stressed, they have so many food sensitivities, they don't know what to do. And just approaching the root causes, which are stress, which are inflammation. So you could do that. Another approach are the anti-inflammatory oils, your peppermints, your eucalyptus, your rosemary, your sweet orange. Again, you're gonna hear orange and citrus a lot going back and forth because these oils are highly versatile. These oils have a direct response, or can help your body dramatically decrease inflammation as a whole. So there's so many different ways that you could use essential oils. There's a topical, an internal, and and inhalation benefit that you could get. Yet I want to caution people just not to go willy-nilly. You really need to understand. You don't need to be trained in aromatherapy, but you need to understand the basics, and you need to find an essential oil educator that you could trust, that you could go and learn from, because as they could do benefit, they could also do harm.
Amazingly, essential oils have healing properties beyond what we might conceive. The regenerative properties of certain oils have been used for various types of healing and recovery. Excellent. And so I've come across some cases of people using essential oils for burns and things like that, and seeing like things that would just be odd in terms of the way these burns like cleared up, and people had just these incredible results. I'm trying to work out why. I mean, do you have any reason why something like that would happen with an essential oil?
Well, like in the case of a burn, again, medicinal properties that can stimulate skin cell regrowth. You know, I did the same thing with nutrients that a lot of people do with oils. For example, I'm going to use burn victims because it's the subject. In the hospital, you get 2nd, 3rd, 4th degree burns in individuals. If you IV them with glutamine, they'll heal 2 to 3 times faster than their counterparts who don't receive that IV. Right? Why? Because glutamine is necessary to restructure and regrow skin. Right? Well, there are medicinal components in different oils that have similar or different types of properties that help to regenerate, that have regenerative, restorative benefits. And we have a lot of medicines in this realm, or in this, I'll call it alternative, although it shouldn't be alternative, and it shouldn't be called alternative. It should really be mainstream. And I think we're going to see more and more of this coming mainstream, because essential oils as remedies can be used for a number of different things. You can take peppermint oil, for example, breathe it in, and it can clear your sinuses as if you're having trouble breathing. You know, there are, thousands of different examples. If you're having trouble sleeping, you can rub lavender oil underneath your lip or on the back of your neck, and it stimulates the release of certain chemicals in the brain to help you sleep better. So, I mean, there, again, chemical benefits to using essential oils that are medicinal in nature, that have minimal side effects, unlike many pharmaceuticals that are extremely focused and well targeted, but the side effects for some people can be very, very devastating. I mean, Ambien as a medication, for example, for sleep, I'd rather use lavender than Ambien, because Ambien, one of the side effects, again, not everybody has this, but one of the side effects is people find themselves driving their cars and then they wake up. So they sleepwalk, or they're doing things while they're sleeping because the drug is so powerful, it puts them into such a deep state that they actually get up and start doing things that could put them in harm's way. I mean, that's a pretty dangerous side effect.
Considering that essential oils have regenerative properties and the ability to affect and ease our stress levels, it stands to reason that they would also be beneficial in pain management.
So Dr. Z, I know you're an expert in essential oils. So how do essential oils play into inflammation and back pain?
Essential oils are a great adjunct. Now, at the end of the day, if you have a structural problem, essential oils aren't going to heal you. They could help though, they're palliative. And one thing I really like about essential oils is there are virtually no side effects if used correctly, compared to pain relieving medications, which have a slew of side effects. Aspirin specifically, heart disease. People don't realize how many heart attacks are directly associated, clinically proven, because of aspirin, because we take aspirin so much. So I love essential oils for symptom-based management. You need to reduce the inflammatory response in the body, and it has direct analgesic properties. It can numb the body in a good way. The great example is our babies, when they teeth, we just put a drop of clove oil on her lips, or I'm sorry, we put a drop of clove oil on our finger and rub it on the baby's gums, and that numbs that pain for the baby. So we got to remember, essential oils are analgesic, they're anti-inflammatory, and there are many other properties that actually help with pain at the root cause. And so you want to look at the ones that are most effective, and research has suggested lavender, wild orange, sweet orange, frankincense, a variety of species of frankincense, the Boswellia species, wintergreen, and there are many, many others. And it's about what's finding the right one for you. And you'll see some things online that talk about morphine bombs and other things. Be careful when you go to Pinterest to get your medical advice. But I will say, having a couple drops of copaiba and maybe a little bit of rosemary in a capsule filled with some coconut oil, taking that once or twice a day, can really help a lot of people. So there are a lot of good oils that people can use that really help reduce the pain and get people off of drugs and get them out of pain.
Another heavenly plant that has endured false accusation and misunderstanding is cannabis.
I see cannabis as one of the most miraculous medicinal plants on our planet. It has so many uses that are medicinal and even industrial. But in terms of what it can help prevent or even treat in medicine, the research now that's being conducted is focusing on neurological disorders, seizures, as well as cognitive or neurology-related disorders such as Alzheimer's and dementia. We're seeing cannabis also be researched for reducing inflammation. And in some cases, in high THC varieties, there's research with use for cancer treatment. This plant is truly amazing. Did you know that the primary molecule of this plant is truly amazing? One of the primary cannabinoids, known as CBD, cannabidiol, did you know that it's almost identical to the cholesterol molecule in the human body? If you look at the carbon chains and the molecular weight, it's almost identical. It's fascinating that CBD, THC, CBDA, and other cannabinoids are so biocompatible with receptor sites on human organs such as the brain, liver, heart, kidneys, muscles, skin cells, and so on. It could almost be called a universal medicinal plant. And I think we're only beginning to tap into its potential. You know, there are over 100 cannabinoids in hemp, and really only a few are even known at this point. CBD, THC, maybe CBDA, which is cannabidiol with a carboxylic acid group attached to it, and it has a different medicinal property than CBD alone. But its medicinal uses, I think, are going to continue to be studied and will continue to expand. Cannabis also has the potential to replace a lot of the dangerous prescription opioids, which are contributing to the opioid overdose and suicide epidemic that's happening in our country right now. There's a problem, of course, widespread with addiction and overdose in opioids. Opioids are generating billions of dollars for the drug companies, and that's why drug companies are fighting tooth and nail to make sure that cannabis is not legalized nationwide as medicine. So you should expect a lot of fierce opposition throughout the FDA, even the CDC, even the American Medical Association, and so on, the pharmaceutical industry, to try to stop the progression of awareness and application of medical cannabis.
Thanks for sharing. Why do you think cannabis was demonized?
Cannabis was demonized simply because at the end of alcohol prohibition, the same federal agencies that found themselves no longer relevant to society needed another boogeyman. So they went after cannabis. I mean, what are they going to do? Put themselves out of business? You know, suddenly alcohol was legal again, so they had to find another target to go after. So they chose cannabis, and they pushed out propaganda campaigns to demonize it. And they, that propaganda continued for generations, to the point where now, we're fighting against that to try to legalize medicinal uses of cannabis. And by the way, I'm not a proponent of smoking marijuana, because smoke itself is carcinogenic and toxic. I'm talking about the liquid forms. You can do topical or you can do oral supplementation with various formulas of hemp extracts, and they can be extremely beneficial for lifelong health and supporting wellness and even treating conditions that are being studied in medical science today.
This episode has described the significance and uses of healing oils and plants in the Bible. Disciples were given instructions by Jesus to heal the sick by anointing them with oils. What would it mean to you to know that God had a plan from the beginning of time to heal our physical, emotional, and spiritual needs? That's from Dr. David Stewart, Healing Oils of the Bible. Dr. Stewart, a chemist and pastor, wrote in his book, Healing Oils of the Bible, that we've separated our health from our walk with God. Now, instead of going to Him with our everyday illnesses, our health issues, or our questions, we're going instead to our medical professionals. We're going to our doctor, our physicians. But God is the greatest physician of all. He's the ultimate healer. He's our creator. He understands us. He knows our bodies. He knows our needs. He created us, and yet we leave Him out often, and we're putting our trust in mankind people that don't know ultimately, because they're not the ultimate creator of the body, nor do they have those supernatural gifts and power that only God has. But God does know. He understands our bodies and He knows everything we need. All we need to do is ask Him, trust, and give ourselves to Him. Disease is destroying billions of people's lives today. In America, 1 in 2 people are suffering from chronic disease. It's totally heartbreaking. When disease strikes, it's merciless. It doesn't matter whether you're in the prime of life, or whether you're a helpless child, or whether you're an elderly person hoping to enjoy retirement. It pulls your life apart and turns a happy laugh into a bitter cry. The most tragic part of all of this is that it didn't have to be this way. This is not what God intended, both in the beginning and now today. That's why you can find the longest living people today are following specifically what the Bible says. The National Geographic has proven that they live up to 15 years longer than the rest of the American public and have an optimal quality of life. Understanding what the Bible teaches in regards to your health is essential. Owning a resource that gives you the tools to apply biblical healing truth to your life is key. Also, having a tool that helps you have faith against the odds based on the truth that is in the Bible is vital. Right now, you have the opportunity to own the Bible Health Secrets Gold Package at a huge saving of 50% off the regular price. When you make the decision to own this powerful resource today, you'll be equipped with the director's cut of the 7 episodes featuring new and exciting content, as well as all of the 40+ full-length expert interviews. What you've been able to witness in this series is only 10% of what we were able to capture, as we weren't able to fit it into the series due to the length, but you'll be able to get it all in the Gold Package of Bible Health Secrets. You'll not only get the videos, but you'll also get the transcripts in written form so that you can follow along and pick up all the specific details that you likely missed. Today, it comes with the exciting bonuses of a guidebook, notes, and scripture reference guide. This will help you get the most out of the series when you rewatch it and share it with your friends and your family. You can choose to get the digital package or the digital plus the physical, which will be shipped to your home so you can hold the transcript books, guidebook, and the DVDs in your hands and share them around with your family and with your friends. When you make the decision to own this life-saving resource today, you'll get access to this private Facebook support group, which is a community designed to bless you in your journey. The great news is that you're fully covered with our 90-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. We also give a large portion of proceeds to those less fortunate as we donate to charities making a difference around the world, including restoring eyesight to the blind with Eyes for India, aiding those battling starvation with the famine relief in Africa, assisting the homeless with medical needs, and other meaningful charities. Don't miss out on getting the opportunity to own the Gold Package of Bible Health Secrets and your chance to secure a huge saving along with all the bonuses. It's only available during this limited time window. Click the link below to own it today. Thank you, and I wish you God's blessings. I'll see you at the next step. I hope you've enjoyed what we shared about essential oils in this episode, and I also hope you'll enjoy what's coming up next. What you're about to hear from are survivors, namely cancer survivors. In Revelation chapter 12 verse 10 it says, "And they overcame him, the devil, by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and loved not their lives unto the death." Now here the Bible is clearly saying that by the word of our testimony we will overcome the devil, we will overcome the enemy. And that is why sharing our story, hearing the story and testimony of others has such a powerful impact on our lives. The Bible actually says by hearing the witness of another person, it can help us to overcome in Christ's name.
In 2013, I went for my annual checkup. And the doctor said, "Wow, after checking you all over, of all my patients in your age group, you are my healthiest patient." So I felt pretty good about that. However, 1 week later, I had a very, very severe pain. I mean, so severe, I was laying on the bed and I physically leaped off the bed because the pain was so sharp. That pain kept coming and going. It did not last long, just a second or two, and then it was gone. And so I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Wow, I can't believe it. You are so healthy, but there must be something wrong. Normally, you know, you just give some pain medication and see if that pain goes away. Maybe it was something, you know, not so serious, but I think I better do a CT scan. So he did a CT scan, and I was diagnosed with intrahepatic cholangiocarcinoma, liver cancer. It's a rare liver cancer, but the prognosis is extremely grim. Chances of survival, 1 in 100. And that was just a statistical number. So, you know, you have that kind of news and you're devastated. I mean, my wife and I just hugged each other and cried and cried. You know, I have grandchildren that I'll never see. You know, our son was going to have a son of his own. I'd never see him. Our daughter is not married. I'll never get to walk my daughter down the aisle. You know, you think about all these things and suddenly life comes to the end. And yet, there is hope. I had a Russian secretary that taught me 1 Corinthians 13, verse 13, and now abideth these three, faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love. But, she continued, however, never forget, hope dies last. You know, this is the wonderful thing. We serve a God that is our creator. He's also our healer.
I got the phone call from the doctor the next week that said to, you know, get to your OBGYN. You have a huge cyst on your left ovary. It was 16 centimeters by 9.5 centimeters by 9 centimeters. So the fact that that cyst had not burst and the fact that I had felt it growing, thank goodness for that cyst. I am grateful to this day for that cyst, because that cyst allowed me to feel and know something was wrong. And that fluid in the cyst, which we saw, was an indication that my immune system was not working at all. Of course, this is hindsight. I didn't know that at the time. But it was a huge fluid-filled cyst. And at the bottom of that cyst, unbeknownst to me, was ovarian cancer, which had already spread from my left ovary to my right ovary, you know, gone through the uterus, of course. And it had also started to penetrate my abdominal cavity and gone to my abdominal wall. Again, I'm very grateful it went to my abdominal wall. They were able to remove that. So we get the diagnosis through surgery. It was ovarian cancer stage 2B in both ovaries, in the uterus. I'm not a young mom, but I do have young children. So, you know, I need to live. I started asking immediately, I need the 35+ year plan to my surgeon. And he just said, you're gonna do fine. You know, we're gonna hook you up with chemo and you're gonna do fine. That's all they would say. And I was someone who thought I should be doing conventional care, who went this complete, total opposite, you know, way. It was like the narrow path. But I knew the Lord had told me to do it. And at the time, several books had come out. One called Radical Remission, but a book had come out that shared that the top 10 reasons people live and have remissions from cancer. Yes, supplements are part of it and diet is part of it. Exercise may have been in there. I'm not sure if it was. But the biggest reason in this New York Times best-selling book that people live past the 5 to 7 year or 10 year expectancy is because they get their mind healthy and clear. They get rid of negative emotions. They get rid of negative people in their life. And for me, in my personal journey, it was loss. You can't help if people die, you know, in your life. You know, we have no control over that. But we do have control about how we perceive death. And I know there's eternity, but I was holding on to those negative thoughts and emotions. So I learned at this clinic that my emotions were really important. And this is something I never would have gotten from another way of treatment. I also learned that every bite I put into my body either builds up or tears down. And that food should be living, healthy food. It should be what God created for us, for our bodies to eat and live and digest. So this started I would say this started a 9-month, I was in treatment for for 16 months total, but 9 months where I was learning on a huge learning curve. I had to change everything overnight. And if I had not gone to this clinic and heard from all these amazing people that were alive 7, 8, 9 years after their leukemia diagnosis, after their breast cancer diagnosis, after their XYZ, fill in colon cancer diagnosis, if I had not met people that were living and beating this, I wouldn't have believed that it really worked. So through some docuseries online and through meeting people in the clinic, that's what gave me the hope that I have today and encouraged me to keep going.
I did have hope, but yet the reality, there may not be much time left in my life. So I asked the pastors to allow me to be anointed and a chance to dedicate my family to God. If I'm only going to be alive a short time, I want my family dedicated to God. I won't be around to take care of them. I need God to take care of them. And then I'll die with a smile on my face if that's what God has planned for me.
Was it hard for you to let go?
It was, but you know, that anointing process, coming together, praying, I felt if I only had a short time, all right, I'll accept it. But after I dedicated my family, I asked the pastors, okay, now let's pray another prayer. I'm going to claim the promises of the Bible. I'm going to claim that God is the God of healing. And I'm going to ask, if it is possible, may I be healed from this cancer. And so we planned that way. My wife started doing some study. She learned that there's a huge connection between refined sugars and cancer. I said, great, then I'm going to eliminate that. We were already on a plant-based diet, but we intensified that. We started eliminating the starches because those just turned to sugars. And so we concentrated on lots of steamed vegetables. She came up with some very, very potent juices. I mean potent as far as nutrition. Fruits and vegetables, lots of them. And so I would have that 45 minutes before my meal. And then after my body absorbed the liquid, then I could have a meal. And when we met with the Mayo Clinic, the surgeon met with us, and he spent very little time. He said, the diagnosis you have is absolutely correct. You have very little time to live unless you do something dramatic in your life. And so he said, the only chance is for you to undergo chemotherapy. He said, I'm not sure your body can even take that. I'd like to do a laparoscopic exploratory surgery, and I'll look and see, are your other organs affected by the cancer yet or not? If they are, there's no point in doing anything. You're not gonna survive. I said, when would you do that? He said, we will do it tomorrow morning. We will do it immediately. Your case needs to be attended to now. So the next morning, they performed the laparoscopic surgery. They discovered, yes, in very large lymph nodes, probability of cancer in all of those. However, my other organs were still okay. So he said, he set up a oncology appointment in an hour and a half after I woke up. We're sitting with the oncologist at 1:30 in the afternoon. We did not leave his office until almost 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He explained why it's so important. My wife and I had said, we're not going to do chemotherapy. Absolutely not. Chemotherapy is going to destroy the good cells along with the bad. Chemotherapy destroys. It's not. But you know, we prayed that God would show us the right way. We prayed that God would direct us. And by the time we left the office, both of us were convicted that God had a path that would lead through chemotherapy. And so we chose to be part of a clinical trial. There were up to 14 of us that could be in this trial. I was the 13th one to join. And so I began the chemotherapy. It's a grueling, grueling treatment. 6 hours of infusion. They put it in your port in your shoulder. It's pumped up through a tube, goes down in a vein and goes into the heart, and it stops just short of the heart valve. It has to mix the chemo drug immediately with blood to dilute it. The drugs are so harsh.
What was it that made the difference?
I eliminated all refined sugars out of my diet. I exercised every day. I made sure and drank lots of water. I got plenty of rest. I got out in the sun every day. I had faith in God. I had a relationship with God that I committed to reading the Bible, making sure I study. God can forgive. And so it eased my mind. So I have no regrets. I can trust in God. I abstained from any alcohol, tea, tobacco, anything that breaks down the body. It stimulates for a while, but it's actually deceiving you and it's tearing you down. So I did all those things. My wife gave me very, very concentrated fruit juices every day. She would juice so that I would get fruits and vegetables and that concentrated, fresh, live vegetables. That's live nutrients. And so the doctors kept saying, no, diet's not important. But everyone else listened. My wife is a surgical nurse. She said, no, no, no. You can't do that. You have to have these fruits and vegetables. No meats, no starches. You've got to just concentrate.
When I went into alternative care and this whole new world of therapies and treatments, I found a lot of hope from the people that I was sitting, in the chair with, so to speak, getting those treatments. What did occur is because the testing is so thorough and done through a lot of your blood work, we realized that I not only had ovarian cancer, which was removed surgically, but I also had a primary tumor in my right breast. So I had breast and ovarian cancers. I learned that 6 months apart in 2014. So that was 2 diagnoses in less than 6 months. And at first I was horrified and upset and was concerned. All that fear came flooding back. But then after thinking and praying through it, I thought, well, it's a good time to get rid of all the cancer so that it never comes back. And as I went through these treatments, day in, day out, came home, was able to take care of my twin 9-month-olds, year-olds, year-and-a-half-olds, and I have 2 twin daughters and a 7-year-old. Now she's 10. As I was able to take care of my family and prepare meals and juice and do all of these things that I needed to do to stay healthy, I just kept getting more and more energy. So I'm a decade older, than I was 10 years ago, and I feel 10 years younger. So these therapies and everything I've gotten has made me feel at least 10 years younger, and made me a better mom with more energy, and so that's been good. Today I am 20 months free of any cancer in my body. The breast cancer's gone, the ovarian cancer's gone. I remember getting the first CT scan over a year ago and seeing that clean, clear report. I was at the swimming pool with my daughters and my husband and actually his parents, and the relief of knowing that everything that we had done, had worked was just, you can't describe it. There aren't words. And I do believe God speaks to everyone during this dark, tumultuous time when you hear the words, "You have cancer." And I think those are probably 3 of the darkest words and scariest words in the American language, and that's international. That's around the world when anyone hears you have cancer. We are programmed that is a death sentence, and we are programmed to fear and just already start writing out our wills if we don't have them together. And we go there. If you don't go there, then that's wonderful, but I certainly was going there.
I believe also that you can talk to God, because these things are so tough in your life, decisions, that even doctors don't know what to do. But you've got to cooperate with the doctor. Sometimes you got to tell the doctor, you know what, my body doesn't need that. I got to go a different way. And you can pray to God and say, God, I need guidance. And I believe firmly that God will guide you. And so we came to a point where I wanted to stop the chemo. And the doctor said, you can't. You've got this far. You got to finish it out. I said, no. I said, I've been praying about this. I'm getting tingling sensation in my scalp. My tips are all tingling. I'm getting ringing in the ears. That's all sign that the chemo now is permanently going to affect, if I go much far more, I'm going to lose all feeling in
more damage than it like help.
Yeah, yeah. He said, oh man, you know, the surgeon, he's not going to be happy with you because you're the first case, he saved you, you know, by getting the cancer out, and for you to quit. I said, okay, let me put that to prayer. Let me pray that the surgeon will accept my choice. All right? Let's see what happens. So my wife and I prayed. We went to see the surgeon. The surgeon, when he saw me, said, called his secretary, look at this guy. He's still alive. Look at how healthy he looks. He said, I understand he's here to get his port out, to be off of chemo. He's done. Let's get it out. Let's take out the port, take it out, stitch him all back up. He's done. Not one negative word from the surgeon. God confirmed that not only did he impress me to stop the chemo, but he also impressed the doctor. Don't give him any hassle. Take the port out. He's done. Then the doctor said, the oncologist, the chemo doctor, he said, you know, let me tell you the rest of the story. We don't know if it was helping or hindering. We don't know. So as long as you made a clear decision, we're good to go with it. So God answers prayer. That's the message. We have to do our part on these tough. I wish more people that had cancer would know that. It takes effort. I just want to inspire people to remember, as long as there's life, there's still hope. That's number one. Secondly, if you dedicate yourself to God, if you ask God to just take your life, let Him control, then the worry is gone. If God has a plan for you, then He's going to take care of it. And if His plans for you are over and your life is short, then there's confidence knowing that God is leading you even through the short road. So that confidence in God is so important. But there's another factor. We can't just expect the doctors to do the healing. The healing comes from God. Doctors are well trained, and I think we should seek the best doctors. But doctors are still learning. God has made our bodies so complex that even doctors are still practicing. How do we understand how to heal? So we've got to be partners.
You know, at 46 years old, I was raised allopathically so that you went to the doctor if something went wrong. I knew there was a natural realm, but I didn't know how to get there, and there was too much messed up information. But when the doctors couldn't come up with any more answers, they couldn't fix my problem, and they couldn't tell me how I got my problem. That's a huge issue. So I ended up just getting away from them. And I'm not going to get into the details of how and why, but the list was so long and I had a life-threatening situation. And I would have died at their hands. So when I was 20 years old, both of my uncles on my mom's side died at 51 years old and 54 years old, 2 days apart, in September 1978. And when that happened, there was a big shock. They both had cancer. One of them took a year to die with liver cancer. One of them took 3 months. By the time they found his cancer to the time he was dead was 3 months. He had thyroid cancer. He was absolutely full. I looked like him. I was genetically following that line. My mom is still alive at 94. Her mom lived till 103. Their dad lived till 87, but they died at 51 and 54 of cancer. They followed the exact instructions of their doctor to a funeral. They were told approximately how long they would have to live. They would do this step, that step, and this step, and they would have a funeral. And it was exactly what happened. So I remembered that. And I thought, well, when it comes everybody else's turn, it's a little different story. But yeah, to see that. And my brother, interestingly enough, my oldest brother, Doug, who was a medical doctor in North Bay for 37 years, he was close to that side of the family as well. And he was telling me at the age of 48, he said that he wouldn't make it past 60. He said, I won't live past 60. I go, Doug, what are you talking like that for? What are you talking about? He was an avid snowboarder. He was very physically in good condition, smart doctor, and he was talking like that. And I said, that's crazy. What, when he was 4, he died in 2011 of a brain tumor, brain cancer, at 60 years old. When he turned 60, I thought, he's wrong. He said he'd be dead by 60. No, he died when he was 60. It just hit him. It was a herpes simplex 1 virus that was in his, it was supposed to be in his lip, went up in his upper left communication center. It paralyzed that, you know, and he, again, he just did what the doctor said. I said, Doug, you're a medical doctor. You're not even going to explore any possible way to remedy this brain tumor. You're doing exactly what the doctor said. He did the surgery because there's no mercy. This thing's growing so fast. They had to cut out as much as they could. They sewed him up. Then they did radiation for 6 weeks. They turned him into like an 11-year-old child with an adult mind. But his interface was an 11-year-old. And we weren't allowed to see him during that time because it was so intense every day going to the hospital. And he had to wear this metal helmet. They put the metal helmet on his head so that it would protect any other part of his head from the radiation damage because they're just pinpointing that area. And then he did the chemo once, oral chemo. He got so sick, he said, I swear I'll never do it again. The next day he did it. Got so sick from that, he goes, that's it, and he never touched it again. So the last part of his life was just the suffering during the day of maybe 3 to 4 minutes of very intense. I was there with him when that happened. He would just bear down and just hang on. And the pain would come, and he would just close his eyes and just hold it. 3 to 4 minutes, come back out, and he'd be okay. And then he just quietly passed. So, you know, but to see that my sister was with him. I wasn't with him when he passed. But my sister was in the room, the one that had the wedding. She was the closest to my brother, Doug. And Doug was very against anything that I was doing. It wasn't that he was necessarily against it, but he mocked it. He was like, man, that's snake oil. But yet my whole life completely transformed and changed from a person that was going to die to a person that was one of the healthiest guys in my age group. And it only took 5 years. You know, it mitigated all that stuff. So, and I'm just trying to give him stuff for him saying, Doug, what's the problem? This can't hurt you. The pharmaceuticals, they have to have double-blind placebo-controlled studies because they could hurt you, you know, to band-aid it up.
Faith was a huge part of my cancer journey. I mean, absolutely huge. From really the very beginning of my diagnosis, I, you know, was a Christian back then. I still am. And one of the very first things I did was pray about it, right? And I was reminded of a scripture that says, God works all things for the good of those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. And so even though I got this horrible stage 3 cancer diagnosis, I remember that verse and I chose to believe that God was going to work it for my good. Even though I wasn't happy about it, like that was the last thing I would have asked for in my life was cancer. But you know, in those like really difficult moments in life, in those trials, in those challenges, like that's where your faith is tested. I radically changed everything in my life to get well. And but at the same time, I was depending on and trusting God to lead me in the process. And so all along the way, there were these amazing sort of mini miracles that happened in my life that reminded me I was on the right path, that he was with me, that he was providing the resources and the people and the information that I needed to encourage me and to give me, you know, this sort of like guidance along the way. One of the first things that we did when, after I had surgery, I went home. I was supposed to have 9 to 12 months of chemotherapy, and my wife and I prayed about it, and I just said, God, if there's another way besides chemotherapy, just show me. And 2 days later, I got a book that came in the mail written by another guy who had healed his colon cancer by radically changing his diet. And the man was a former pastor, and he'd watched a lot of his friends and church members and family members suffer and die through conventional cancer treatment. And then he got a diagnosis and thought to himself, well, there's no way I'm doing that. And someone told him about raw food and the power of fruits and vegetables to restore health and promote healing in the body. And so he got well. And then 30 years later, here I am reading his book. And that was the first of many miracles in my life that set me on a different path. than the conventional cancer treatment path. You know, I had this revelation again when I was diagnosed that everything I need comes from the earth, and that I'd been eating this junk food, fast food, Western diet, tons of meat and dairy, tons of just absolute garbage man-made food. And I converted to a raw vegan diet. So I started eating tons of fruits and vegetables every day, the equivalent of between 15 and 20 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. That's what my diet looked like. And it was all raw for the first 90 days. And then I added more cooked food back in, like lentils and rice and sweet potatoes. And now, 14 years later, right, I'm alive and well, no cancer. I have a huge platform and am able to encourage people that are cancer patients, that are trying to prevent a recurrence, that are trying to heal, or people that are just trying to prevent cancer and want to live a long, healthy life. Able to encourage them with principles that are foundationally and fundamentally biblical. You know, most of the wisdom and the truth that you hear in the world actually is sourced from the Bible, even though it's not given credit a lot of times, right?
After being married for over 10 years, I found myself with sudden abdominal pain on November 22nd of 2013. My doctor thought it was gallstones. I had a very boring health history. Nothing wrong with me. In fact, my growing up years, I was the one that wanted to eat salad, and my brothers were eating junk food, and that was all okay for them, but I really, really, really wanted to go the nutritional route. So cancer was never on the horizon for me. To say that it's a shock when you hear the word cancer attached to your name is true for most people, but in my case, in the ER room that night, it felt like time just stopped. They were 90% sure that it was follicular non-Hodgkin's lymphoma stage 3, not 100% sure. In a slow-growing form of lymphoma, their words to me were, "This is not curable. It's a 3% chance that it wouldn't grow back." So they presented chemo arsenal approach right away. That was their offer to me, was, let's beat this back as hard as we can, and let's start in January. My date of diagnosis was 2 days before Christmas of 2013. I spent that Christmas feeling that I wasn't really in the room watching my children open Christmas presents. I kept wondering if it was going to be my last time, my last Christmas. Having the January date coming up on us, I had a lot of unrest inside. And this was the date that we were going to do one more biopsy to make sure, and then start the arsenal approach to chemo, which would have been a combination of 4 chemotherapies with 1 immunotherapy drug. During that time, I went to the internet and I started looking up anything to do with cancer care that didn't involve chemo. And I came across several good websites and got some ideas that we started at home right away. So within 3 weeks of diagnosis, our lifestyle was beginning to change. We were doing juicing and drinking Essaic tea, or Essaic tea, as the case may be. I still haven't learned how to say it. And during that time of learning, we saw other options out there. So during that time, we canceled that appointment and just said we were going to take some more time to research on our own. And we chose a place in Irvine to travel down to as a family. And that was my first step into alternative medicine, integrative medicine. And during the 3 weeks that I spent there, we did a lot of the vitamin C, and I had my foundation set for learning, a lot of learning of what does this look like to treat cancer in this way. It was a lot of education. I went for 4 weeks to Hope for Cancer in Mexico. And now my family has grown in size. The people that I have met there, I am in close relationships with many people. There's a lot of beautiful things that have come from the 4 weeks that I spent there and my ongoing relationship with people at the clinic. What was different about my experience there compared to previous ones I've had is I was busy from the beginning of the day to the end of the day with all of these things available to me to help me. And I learned so much while I was there that I was able to take home with me. After my time at Hope for Cancer, I I went back home to be on the home program, and I actually had no idea of any results of how I was doing physically. But I can tell you that my heart and my mind and my energy, all of that was better. The recommendation was to wait 3 months, 2 to 3 months before getting an MRI. And so we did, and we weren't really sure what we were gonna find out. And after a search, we finally found a doctor from Hungary who will do MRIs for me. So that's what she does. She monitors me every 6 months. And in that year, it was May when I had my next MRI. And that was my first 2 thumbs up, the best news you can get on MRI, unremarkable. I love being unremarkable when I get scan results. I remember staring at that piece of paper thinking, is this mine? Wait, is that my name? Really? I went and showed it to Steve and said, tell me this is your wife. Is this me? He looks at it, Lisa Engelman, age 37. There's no swollen lymph nodes. There's nothing. They can't find anything to say anything about. We celebrated in a very big way. Very big way. Went out and told the kids, and this is a type of cancer where the oncology world will never use the words cured. They use NED, no evidence of disease. And that's the best stamp you can get on your medical papers. So our words we use were, I'm in remission. That was my first all clear. And then again, this last February, I had my second all clear. And there's no sign of recurrence, is what they say. Going on from here, I can choose to enter into the statistics of Western medicine. And I can tell myself, well, Lisa, there's a 3% chance that it's not going to grow back to need treatment again. Or I can say, I'm a statistic of 1, I'm a child of God, God decides, and I have adopted a lifestyle that is focused more on changing the environment within and not concerning myself so much with cancer in and of itself.
The epiphany that I had right in the beginning that changed my mind and got me thinking differently about my situation was that I think that truth is simple. And I believe that God created the earth for us. And I believe that everything we need comes from the earth, that He's given us everything we need. And the farther we get away from living a natural, sort of grounded life, the more disease and ill health we will produce. So I had this epiphany that, I need to really get back to nature, right? I need to get back to a simple diet of whole foods from the earth, just fruits and vegetables. So you look at in the Garden of Eden, right? What was God's first original diet for mankind? If you believe the Bible is true, then the first diet for mankind was fruit, right? There were probably some vegetables in there, but if you've got all these fruit trees and berries and all this abundant fruit, you're probably going to reach for a mango, right? Or some berries versus like broccoli. So why does man eat meat? Well, to survive. And if you eat 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, it's hard to find room for other unhealthy food. It's hard to find room for junk food and a bunch of meat and dairy if your goal and your focus is to eat at least 10 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. So that's the way I eat. Well, two of the blue zones are Mediterranean. Sardinia, Italy, and Icaria, Greece. And yeah, those cultures eat lots of beans, right? Lots of beans and potatoes and root vegetables and very little meat and dairy. And so it is interesting. I mean, the fad diets, the most popular diets are the ones that tell people, oh, eat as much bacon and butter as you want. But when you actually look at the long-term studies around the world of the longest living people, like the blue zones, these are people that are eating primarily plant-based diets, 95% plant-based on average. And what that translates to is they might eat a serving of meat a few times a week or a few times a month. So compare twice a week meat eating to 3 times a day, right? I mean, that's a huge difference. 3 times a day is 21 servings of meat per week versus 2 to 3 servings. So, we're eating as much as 10 times more meat in the United States and Europe and other countries than some of the poorest countries and some of the longest living people. 10 times more. It's interesting because when you try to when you talk to people about this, we've been so ingrained to meat eating, and the meat industry has been advertising and bombarding us with literally ads. Beef is real food for real people. The incredible edible egg, got milk, right? These meat producer industries are advertising on television, magazines to convince you to eat more meat, right? Of course, even the cheese industry too. So we've just been ingrained to think you got to eat animal protein 3 times a day. And I can tell you, I'm strong, I'm fit, I'm in the best shape of my life. And I mean, meat is such a tiny, tiny fraction of my diet. You know, it's not uncommon for me to go a month or more without having any at all. And for anybody listening who thinks it's crazy, I've just got to tell you, like, you don't need it. And what you'll find is if you're struggling with diabetes, if you're struggling with hypertension, with high blood pressure, with any type of heart disease, you can turn this around so fast. I mean, you will be shocked at how quickly your blood work will change. Just 30 days on a 100% whole foods plant-based diet. So I say whole foods because you don't want to, you know, be eating Oreos, which are technically vegan, right? But if you focus on eating whole plant foods, oatmeal for breakfast is wonderful, right? Smoothies are great, like tons of fruit in the blender, blend it up and enjoy it. Fresh fruit as much as you want. All the cooked and raw vegetables you want. So giant salads or rice and beans, potatoes, corn, carrots, beets. Any fruit, any vegetable, raw or cooked, in any way you want is wonderful. And so point is, when you clean up your diet in your life, get your blood work done, get it done in 30 days, and you'll see an improvement. And then in 90 days, you'll see a huge improvement. So it's important to monitor your progress when you do something like this too, because a lot of people make healthy changes, but they really don't understand the benefit that's happening in their body because they don't get their blood work checked. And so then they can kind of slide back into their old habits, right? And so whatever limited or early benefit they had, they lose because they didn't even know they had it, right? Except usually people feel better, right? They'll lose weight, they'll feel better, they'll have more energy. So those are tangible benefits. But the intangibles are things like your cholesterol, right? Or your C-reactive protein, which is a measure of inflammation in the blood that goes way down when you stop eating animals and stop eating junk food. So those are the kind of things that you kind of need to get your blood work looked at so you can see, oh, wow, like I am actually healthier. So, you know, again, just going back to simple truth. And I said earlier, I think truth is simple. I think lies are complicated. And I think everything we need comes from the earth in a pure, unadulterated form. And if man made it, probably shouldn't eat it, right? But if it grew out of the ground, preferably organic, then it's free from toxic pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, you know, all this junk they spray on our food. Then that's the absolute best diet for every human, is a organic, at least 95% plant-based diet. So it's not just theory, right? I know people that reverse diabetes with all fruit. Like, who would have thought? Like, well, fruit and the sugar, but diabetes, I can't have this fruit because of the sugar. No, if you go all fruit, you lose weight, and your body flushes out all this internal fat that's accumulated, because diabetes is really a disease of fat toxicity. It's not a sugar disease, although being insulin resistant and having high blood sugar is a side effect of diabetes. It's a consequence of diabetes, but it's not the cause of diabetes. So again, as weird as this sounds to some of your listeners, I want to challenge anyone to try it. Most people have never just eaten all fruit for a week or 2 weeks or a month. Most people have never just eaten a vegan diet, a plant-based diet for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month. And you know, if you're struggling, if you're suffering from some kind of health challenge, whether it's eczema or psoriasis or diabetes or hypertension or heart disease or precancerous cells or even cancer, why not? Why not try it?
Thank you for watching this episode. I hope you've really enjoyed it and it's had a huge blessing in your life. Now, I just want to let you know that if you've enjoyed this, then you're sure going to enjoy episode 4, episode 5, 6, and 7. Also, something that you'll really enjoy, I believe, will be the Gold package. The Gold package enables you to see all the extended interviews, what we haven't yet been able to show you in this series due to the length, and you'll also get a whole heap of other great and exciting bonuses that you can check out on the next page by clicking the link below. So go ahead and check that out if that's something you're interested in. Also, so you know, your support enables us to keep getting this message into the world, to save lives, to give hope to people and the life-saving truths of the Bible, and it also helps us to support meaningful charities around the world. So thank you for your consideration. You can check it out just below.